welcome back to The Soup. It is season 3 and of course episode 1 of awesome fun with fantastic ladies, and of course we're giving you the best entertainment, the best news and the hottest topics that you can find on TV. Of course we have to thank you, the viewers, for keeping it locked to The Soup on our social media as well as our local TV stations and on YouTube. We have appreciated all your support for the last 2 seasons. Now of course we're doing nothing different this season around, except we're bringing you hotter topics, we're bringing you more vibes and more entertainment, and of course if we have to keep it a little fresh each season, of course we have to make sure that we have some fantastic ladies to make up the cast. And so for season 3, we do have some new faces, some fresh faces, and of course some awesomely beautiful women. And so let's not take any more time. Let me introduce you to the cast. Of course, I am Franny. You know me from last season. And to my right, Rochelle. Hi, Rochelle.
Hi.
Welcome. It's your first time. Tell us a little about you.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. So I work at The Voice currently as a journalist slash columnist. And I've been there for the past 3 years. But previously, some might know my face from Choice TV. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's Rochelle.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, so that's Rochelle. And we have a lady here in a school uniform today. Now, no, we have no school children on the cast, but she'll explain. Hey, Keisha.
Hi, Franny, and hi, guys. Of course, in keeping with our topic today, and well, Franny will get into that. And it's a school vibe. It's September, and of course, children heading off to school, and I'm looking forward to that topic today. Well, presently I'm an advisor. I'm going to leave it at that. I have been in the media for the past 6 years. Like Rochelle, I was actually previously on Choice, and then more recently a radio personality on RSL, and I had the party segment Frenzy, and yeah, that's basically it in a nutshell.
Basically Keisha. Yes. Don't worry, we'll learn a little more about the ladies, okay? They're leaving out some awesome stuff. And of course we have somebody who's not a strange face to the Soup family. We had a very interesting conversation with her last season, didn't we?
We did, oh my gosh.
Hey girl, how are you, girl?
I am fabulous. And meeting up with you, well, you guys are new, so you may not know what we're talking about, but Franny definitely knows. It is fabulous being back here. I'm sure people know my face by now, not just from the Soup, but other programs that I've done, and also from radio, because I do this weekly health radio program, where I talk everything to do with sex, relationships, clinical issues, medical, what have you.
The important stuff.
Number 1, yes. But outside of that, I'm free and easy. You know, I'm the Rasta baby.
All right.
I do my thing, yes. So I'm happy to be here with you guys today.
Awesome. So you see, I told you we had a very fun cast. It's about to be a blast. Today we are speaking universal education, which is a very serious topic, but we're going to cover various aspects of it. Of course, I do have to thank our previous sponsors. You guys, isn't our set beautiful?
I'm in love with it.
Honestly, okay.
I'm in love with it.
Okay.
Could I take those to go home with?
No, ma'am. No. We didn't come to play with you, okay? So, we do have to thank our sponsors, especially from last season. We have Sea Island Home and Garden, of course, making sure that everything's on fleek on the set, okay? We have to thank Goldep Fell. Of course, they made sure that our bellies were filled, and I'm sure this season we're gonna have some awesome stuff as well. Really? And of course, Colors Fashion, amongst all of the guys that have kept us very entertained.
Yes.
So ladies, we do have a special guest for you today. But ladies, in our next segment, which is what you guys need to stay tuned for, we're gonna be talking school.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Now, Keisha is dressed in her school uniform, which is a hint which school you went to.
Really?
Okay.
I was trying not for anybody.
Really? Wow, it didn't work. It didn't
work. I think I figured it out.
Oh, come on.
What school are you guys talking about? I don't know.
What school could it possibly be? Right? Blue and white. And
unless she's not going to.
No, but there's another up in Bocage. To me, they're blue and white. It's just a
there's another Marigold. No, we're speaking of one that is more prominent, that has been there forever and ever.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking
about. One where you know those shoes have to be as white as they are.
Yep.
So
No, I,
what's,
don't, I have no idea.
You
what
rep-
you're
Give it up, Keisha, give it up.
what's your alma mater that you rep for?
I still don't know what you're
You
talking
don't. I'm an SJC girl. Rochelle.
Entrepot.
Woo! My mommy. We'll get to that last because we don't know what school she's repping for apparently.
My sister over here.
Entrepot. Okay, so we have two Entrepot and two
Yep.
SJC.
Yeah, to
Okay.
SJC.
Let's see who wins this one, all right?
I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll
That's
see.
like, oh, we're in, okay.
Okay, so it's game on, all
Yes,
right, on the
game
soup.
on.
So I guess if you want to see who wins, then you need to keep it locked to the soup, right?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. But guys, I think we need to take a little break just to give some thought and our thoughts and prayers to the hurricane victims over in our sister Caribbean islands. We
Absolutely.
know what that has been like for them. Even for those of us who have experienced the hurricanes ourselves, case in point, Hurricane Thomas, we have been through that and we know what it was like for us. So we can only imagine for them who had it a whole lot worse than we did, what it feels like for them, the loss, the pain, the discomfort, not knowing what's going to happen later, where you're going to be, who's going to be there with you, those who lost loved ones, and even for us who have friends and families over there, wherever that country is, knowing that we have not spoken to them yet, wondering what's happening with them, but knowing they've been displaced. So I think right about now, just to keep them in our thoughts, let others know who are able to hear us and see us, know that they're in our prayers and we're thinking of them. And I'm also encouraging listeners, watchers, everyone, give what you can when you can, so that they can then know not only that we're supporting in terms of thoughts and prayers, but in terms of what we have, we're able to share.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really scary
It is.
to know that an entire island had to be evacuated. I mean, can you imagine if they
Wiped
had
off
to
the face of the map.
evacuate the entire island, Saint Lucia? I mean, that is, it's sentimental value, there's culture, and to see everything, and of course with the social media, we get to see these things almost instantly, what's
And the
happening.
pictures are so
and
horrible.
then an evacuation of an entire island. I mean, when I thought of that, of course, you try and put yourself in their shoes. If that had to happen to us, hey, you know.
I remember my experience from not Thomas, but yes, actually it was Thomas. And I did not have to move from my home or anything like that, but I had no water. And I had no light for a little bit of time, but the water lasted a bit longer. And I did not, I'm not saying this to put down anybody, but I remember telling a friend of mine that I felt like a village girl, because it meant that I had to be carrying buckets and bathtubs
yes.
and whatnot, go collect rain from the galvanized eaves and all of that, to be able to get water, not just for flushing your toilets, but other little things. And
that's when you really appreciate water.
really appreciated it, yes.
And accessibility to water.
Oh my God! And at that time, you had the owners of these supermarkets and whatnot inflating the price of water. So that made it another horrible thing.
Yes, yes.
And so you had to be fighting for water. So knowing that and experiencing that, I do have an inkling of what our sisters and brothers are going
Absolutely.
through.
I think
Yes.
we all do, especially all of us in the Caribbean. It's not anything strange to us. And again, I'm hoping that everybody lends their support as they could during
us
the
hope that
time.
we all do. Yes.
You know, well, for us here, it's back to school season. And so we're lucky. You know, we should count our blessings that our education can continue as normal,
Uninterrupted,
or
yes.
as normal as possible. But you know, our sister islands did face some difficulty, and so let's appreciate what we have.
And fingers crossed, we hope it continues, because it's an active season.
Very
Yeah.
active, yeah, more so than normal. So fingers crossed, prayers in the air,
Yeah.
all over.
Jose
Definitely.
is on its way.
Definitely.
So, yes.
And let's just hope that Jose and Lee and all the others that are passing spare those islands that have been affected the worst. You know?
Yeah. I mean, the phrase has been bad things comes in threes, but at this rate, it looks like it's coming in fours and fives.
no, don't say that.
No, I'm not trying to put that out there, but,
Ending.
you know, let us hope that that's it. And if anything else comes, it's going to be mild. Nothing to really, really
Yeah.
be fearful of.
Yes.
But you know, guys, we know what our topic is.
Yes.
We know what we want to talk about.
Absolutely.
And we know what we're going to say.
Yes.
Definitely.
So much to talk about. So let us now take a pause, encourage our viewers to go get some coffee. Go get a snack.
Or some wine.
Do that.
Get
and
some
then you can
soup.
return.
Hello.
Some soup. And then you can come back all ready to take us on as we continue our topic.
As communities, we have a role to play in ensuring that abuse of women and children in the home gets reported. When violence in the home is seen as a private matter and communities turn a blind eye, tragedy sometimes follows. It doesn't hurt to help. Find out how you can make a difference.
For more information, call 202, the Women's Support Center.
Welcome back to The Soup. We thank you for joining us as we look at the topic of universal education in Saint Lucia, to be more specific. What do you think about that? What is universal education in Saint Lucia really like in terms of quality, in terms of excelling? So ladies, I remember what it felt like for me as a young girl entering entry post-secondary school for the first time. Trust me, I was this little thing, height to a short frog. Don't mind how tall I am now. And I remember entering this school and I felt so intimidated. The principal, Mr. Nathaniel, at the time, God rest his soul, was the principal then, waiting at the gate, and all of us, the little boys and girls, entering there. And that first day was memorable to this day, but it was also one of the most fearful days of my life. Throughout my time there, I must say some teachers really formed me in terms of the kind of student I would be. But there was also a particular male student, male teacher, sorry, who I had a crush on. Imagine this little girl, and she has a crush on a male teacher. So I don't understand the females and the males who go through that. So puberty and all of that. And every time he came near me or he stood up in front of the class and whatnot, I got numb and dumb because I couldn't say anything. But he was actually very instrumental also in forming me and teaching and learning and excelling. So it meant that at the end of 5 years, when I did my CXC, I came out with some good grades. I wish some were better than others, especially in math. But that was not bad. So for me, the teaching, the quality of teaching, the input of the teachers and their concern and their putting their all in terms of ensuring that each student did their best, guiding you on what topics to choose for CXC, based not necessarily on what you want to do, but what you'd be better at doing. Those days, as the years went by, were fabulous. So much so that when I graduated, I felt out of place. I really wanted to go back. I did. Imagine that.
Wow.
Wanting to go back to school. I did.
I wanted to go.
I wish I could say the same.
I wanted to go. I was so happy. We were big people now. We're going to A-level.
I don't think I ever wanted
I wanted to go back to secondary school.
Really?
I really did.
Well, like you, Alison, I remembered my first day at school. I did.
Did you have a crush? No, it was
that
only
was
few days
later
back.
on. No,
That was later on?
we had male teachers.
Okay,
Cool.
I'm just asking.
Well, it was much later on when we started having more male teachers whilst I was there. But my first day of school, my uniform was very, 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 very long.
Okay, and you did not like that?
I'm not sure because from the environment I came from Ave Maria into secondary school, it was almost like a cultural shock to me. I guess I was a little sheltered. I still say that. And then now I come into this school and then all these girls from all over, some snobby, some nice, some, and I was like, and I had no shoes. Like, you know the no shoes with the little wedge heel?
Yes.
Yeah, I had no shoes, and you know the bobby socks, because it was the
Oh, Lord.
90s. I'm not saying if it's early or late, but it was 90s, and they had, you know when you have the bobby socks rolled down,
Uh-huh.
and they thick?
I remember that, yes.
Yeah.
Those socks, yes.
So you do know that, well, I was a source of entertainment.
And you say that mindly.
I'm trying to be, you know, but I mean, it brings it to the fore for me in issues. There's also issues that some students have to deal with, bullying and so on. I mean,
Being
some people
different.
take
Yeah.
it too
I
far.
had my fair share. Yeah.
Some people take it too far, and I'm happy now, especially now that there's a lot of anti-bullying campaign going on to educate students better,
Right.
etc. But of course, again, keeping to our topic of universal education, I always thought that this was something that our consecutive governments needed to work better at. I think everybody deserves an opportunity, no matter where you're from. You deserve an opportunity to be educated. The sky's the limit. Who knows where our children are going to end up.
Now, Franny, I must say, you have this look where I do not know what you girls are talking about, but I'm sure you have your own stories as to what it
I want
felt
to
like.
hear.
I really do.
First day at school.
It seems like you all enjoyed school.
And you did it?
I didn't say I did, you know. I had
You
my
seem
share
like
of
it.
things.
Okay, you seem
I had
like it.
Bobby socks with
You
no
seem-
shoes, really?
Oh,
come on.
Bobby socks
Yeah,
all the
just the
time.
first term,
Yes.
yeah.
Not built character.
You see, I was counting down the years.
Oh, you
I
were?
could not
Wow.
wait to leave.
Oh
I'm not
my.
saying I had a bad experience. School was great. Of course, I was a class clown. I was Shenene. I'm still called Shenene today. Okay, I was a class clown.
Okay.
Except I was talented. I could sing. And so I was part of different groups in the school. And so I think that's why I didn't get in a lot of trouble.
Okay.
Because for when the older girls left, I was the only singer in the school, so I had to represent the school. So I couldn't really be in trouble and represent the school.
After
So
all,
win-win.
yes.
So, you know, my first experience, I came from Anglican. Hey. I came from Anglican primary school. And of course, you know, that's where the real people came from.
Oh,
You
no.
know?
Oh,
and so we
no.
were kind of rough. We were rough, okay? Anglican primary school. I'm not sure if it's the same today. We were
Okay.
rough. It will shape you, okay? When you come from Anglican and you go to a secondary school, you prep.
So you take none
So
of
the
it.
Anglican girls, all 5 of us, walked in prepped for whatever was
Okay.
supposed to happen that day.
Right.
It wasn't an enjoyable experience for me because I lost all my friends at the time.
Okay.
I was the only one from one of 2 from my class who passed for SJC. And you know, SJC is seen as one of the more prominent schools.
Yes.
It didn't matter for me. I just wanted to wear white shoes. So when I went, I'm so serious. I wore black
Interesting.
shoes throughout my entire primary school.
So
I
you
was
wanted
like,
to
You wanted
change
to
the color.
change.
I had dreams. I'm gonna drive a Mustang convertible. I'm gonna be a
Okay.
Dr. X. And 3, I want to go to a secondary school with white shoes. I didn't care if it was Bocage or SJC or Saira.
Right. It had
I
to
wore
be
white shoes. Okay, I never kept them clean. But the point was, change. I wanted to wear white shoes.
You go, girl. She starts the plan.
So I passed for this secondary school, but none of my friends passed for SJC, and that's the school they wanted to go to. I would say it's a blessing and a curse. I have such a good memory that I never needed to study. So to see that
Same
my
here.
friends studied so hard and they couldn't go, and I was the one who was always just, okay, common entrance today, okay, I was late. You know, it's like, oh, that's what's happening today. So to see that the girl who was not fussy ended up going to the school that he wanted to go to, I lost my friends. You know, so I went into this school not really knowing the girls. The other girls who came from my school were kind of the prissy girls, so we didn't really, you know, connect. So it wasn't enjoyable. But I did have a very fun experience at SJC. You know how SJC is.
Girl.
It's
Okay,
really,
don't share.
I know,
Don't
right?
share.
it's really a sisterhood, and it really shapes you. And I do have to say thank you to certain teachers like Miss Lawrence and Miss Lloyd, you know, who really took their time with me, who understood that, yes, okay, Franny, just relax, okay? Just slow it down a little bit, you know? But then they did give me an opportunity to hone my talent. And so, you know, when it came to job training, I got to do job training on a radio station. I didn't think I'd be good at it, but they saw these things in me. And it's amazing how teachers that don't know you, you know, can learn you so well over the years to know what works for you. They can envision a bright future for you. I know some people have had bad experiences with teachers talking down to them,
Yes,
but
yes.
fortunately enough, I had a positive experience at SJC. And so although for me, I just couldn't wait to leave school, it was...
She enjoyed it more than
Yes.
5 years, it really was.
Why were you counting down?
I couldn't wait to leave. I just wanted to work.
Okay.
I always
So you
wanted
wanted the
to work.
independence.
So even after CXC and I performed well, my teachers were very disappointed that I chose not to apply for Sir Arthur Lewis or one of, because I just wanted to go out and work, you know. I wanted to go out and entertain, so I went out and I did that. I got a job in entertainment. And so it just worked out differently for me.
Very differently.
But my mommy went to Enchipo, by the way, and she has very good experiences at Enchipo Secondary School.
And I'm sure
So I'm interested to know.
Don't think you're left out, you know. I need to hear.
My first day was not like Franny's. I was not looking forward to what shoe I was going to wear or anything like that. But mine was the complete opposite of Franny's, actually. Because when I passed for Enchipo, I ended up going there with about 3 of my best friends from Ave Maria. They were in my class. And so I got in there, I was very comfortable already because I felt right at home because I had my people with me. And I don't want to brag or anything like that, but almost automatically we kind of shot to the top of the popularity stakes and whatnot. So the group I hung out with, we were quite popular. Even
That is
Form 1.
far from my experience.
Yeah, like the form, you would find like the Form 3s come in to hang out in our class and stuff like that.
Oh, you were the cool kid.
Yeah, even the boys were nuts. And so, like, you would find people, even the Form 3 girls and stuff, were attracted to the boys in my class in Form 1 and stuff. And so everyone, my class was the place that was happening. We were the one who had the fish tank that eventually the boys, we came into our class one day and someone went and they urinated in our fish tank and they killed all our fish. And then our boys were going into the river next to the school to get new fish and stuff. Yeah, that was my class.
But what it does sound like, your class was very different.
Yeah, no, we
Very
were
different.
and up to now, I'm still in a group on WhatsApp with some of my closest friends. And
You still
it's
hang
like
with these crazy people?
Yeah.
You need to stop
we
that.
live in different
No, you need
places
to
in the
stop
world,
that.
but we're so cool.
No, you need to stop that.
No,
But
no,
ladies,
no.
don't
No.
forget, and I'm sure our listeners, you've noticed by now that there's a lady in there with us who wasn't there before.
Yeah.
And that is not something
magically
that is not deliberate. So I want to introduce you to our guest, Miss Bernice Lewis. How are you, my lady?
Alison. I'm doing
You look
very
wonderful.
well. Thank you.
Oh,
You
Very
too.
wonderful.
The entire cast looks lovely.
Well, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are watching, this young lady over here, she's special. She's an educator. She has her bachelor's in English and journalism. But that's not all. She had to get some more. So she decided that she would go further and get her master's in education. Now this lady, her brain is a little too much for me. But that's a good thing, don't get me wrong. She's also the founder of an organization called JUMP. It's a mentoring non-profit organization. So Bernice, you tell us just a little bit more about you and how all of this comes into play for universal education.
I think you did that so well.
Did I tell you she was on
Just flow. You have a great
and
memory.
if you can include in there maybe very briefly your first day at school, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should I start with that first then?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I remember my first day of school being very fraught with nerves, if I can say that, because I was new, obviously, and I had all my books in my bag, and it weighed me down.
Oh boy, your back paid for it.
So you know, when you don't know what to expect, you have new teachers, you have a timetable you haven't even seen yet. So I carried all my books. I mean, that's the normal thing to do, right? Yeah. So yeah, by the end of the day, let's just say I was in severe pain.
I quite understand. I had the same issue.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have had that issue. Our timetables still have to take about a couple of days to get
Before
made.
you can,
Yeah.
yes, definitely.
Yes.
So you're an educator?
Yes, I have been
So-
an educator for 7 years. I teach English and literature.
Okay.
And I've had the joy of teaching at several different schools in Saint Lucia, about 6 to be precise. And I love teaching. I absolutely love it. I have a passion for passing on knowledge to the youth. So
and
it's
dealing
a
with
joy.
them in all their irritations and frustrations.
Yes, you
and all
try.
of that.
You get ways to get around it.
Yeah. And as an educator, you'd have that skill, right?
Yes,
Along with the
definitely.
love and the passion.
Yes, you have to learn the skills. The first day is the hardest as a teacher, but you learn it as you go along.
Okay. So as we look at, you wanted to say something, Ronnie?
Well, I wanted to ask, was your experience at your secondary school, which school was it, by the way?
Oh, Corin Secondary.
Corin Secondary, all right.
Only the best on the island.
Oh, Lord.
Okay. Relax, everybody
You did
relax.
very well.
Was it such a positive experience that it actually led you to become an educator?
Well, I actually love the experience at Corin Secondary. My teachers were absolutely fantastic. I remember having crushes not on guy teachers.
Yeah? No? On your fellow students?
On
male
my female teachers.
Okay.
Because I just love the way they interacted with us. It wasn't
Yes.
anything sexual. It was just, this is somebody I really like and I would like to, emulate when I grow up. So that was, I actually loved my teachers for that reason. I loved learning and I
Okay,
loved my
sister,
teachers.
yeah.
Okay.
I get you.
Okay. Maybe
I like that she put it like
Wait,
it.
none of y'all love your teachers that much?
Maybe some of you had that experience at home. Okay, if you did, then of course tell us a little bit more about it on our social media pages. Okay, we're waiting to hear a little bit more about your experiences and some of the teachers that you loved at secondary school. We're coming right back to continue our discussion on universal education.
I'm so fed up with my 14-year-old child. She's driving me crazy. I just don't know what to do.
All that child need is some good licks to wake up.
Alice, ignore the counseling Pansy is giving. Government employees have free access to professional counseling services under the Employee Assistance Program known as EAP.
EAP? EAP? What's that? Not me that telling people my business.
Listen to me, Alice. I was struggling with my child. I made an appointment to see an EAP counselor, and I was very satisfied with the service that I received. And you know what? Up to a day like today, my information remains confidential.
Cox, how come nobody in the office knew anything about your counseling?
That's because EAP counselors, they work under strict clauses of confidentiality. I know you know what confidential means.
EAP providing professional counseling services? How much is it?
Girl, the counseling is free. Free for you, free for your child. And you know what? Your information remains confidential. Call the EAP unit at the Ministry of the Public Service. Telephone number 468-2269 for more information.
EAP works. Let it work for you.
Welcome back. We're continuing our discussion on universal education today with our very special guest, Bernice Lewis. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of universal education. For some of you, it's the first time that you're hearing about it. For others, I'm sure you've heard a lot of discussion about universal education in the media. And so we have Bernice here to give us some insight on what universal education is. So let's start off by you telling us what universal education means to you.
Thank you, Franny. So universal education is basically education for all. So if you think back 10 years ago, we had just a few secondary schools, and then we got a plethora of schools just popping up all over the island because we wanted to basically allow everybody a chance at education. Before we would end at the standard 6 level,
Yes.
and then you had to just go out into the world of work and fend for yourself. But then with all of these secondary schools, we have a better opportunity to educate the entire population. But the question now is really, what is the quality of education that our youth are getting at those secondary schools? Can we really say that they're getting quality education, or do we have to go back to the drawing board and look at what we're doing and how we're educating our youth?
What would you say? What would you say the
I
quality
said
is currently?
I would definitely, it needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of work. Yes, we've all had good experiences at our secondary schools, but not everybody is, let's say, easy to learn like we are, or available or able to learn. So we need to find ways to reach everybody, every child who has a different intelligence. We have multiple intelligences, and some children are better at sports, some are better at art, some are better at music. And I wasn't very good at math, but I would say I'm a very good English teacher, so I'm good at English. So that's why I did that. But we need to find and hone the skills that the children are good at. And
I agree.
We're not doing that so far.
Now, funny you should say that, because, you know, we said we go to SJC and who's at HES and Compre. So there still seems to be a hierarchy
Yes.
in terms of the school system. So is that fair in terms of, well, we had a discussion that, you know, certain sets of teachers as well are at certain sets of schools. So is it fair? Because we say we want the children to have access to education, but is it a level playing field? And should we, in terms, I know they've been doing, what is it that you go to the schools, your zoning, right? Do we need to look more to that and make it sure that it's even, and the teachers, it's not that, oh, well, the best teachers go here and and these certain teachers go here, that everybody gets a level playing field?
I would definitely say that the best teachers don't go to the best schools, because as a teacher I've moved around quite a bit, and I know there are other teachers who move around. So you could have a teacher who is really, really good at the Cosley Secondary School. So it really doesn't matter. It's really based on the child and how he applies his or herself. So they have access to the best teachers everywhere.
Okay, but in terms of the hierarchy, still standing, you know, it's certain schools, there's SMC, SJC, Cashier's Comprehensive, and in the south there's Viewfort Compre, Soufriere Compre, and then after there's Leon Hess. So there's still that hierarchy. Is that good?
You know, you
is
say
that
there's
okay?
a hierarchy, but if we have to sit here and compare our grades, we all went to so many different secondary schools. And if we have to sit here and compare our grades at the end of our 5 years, we might be surprised what we get. Because I went to Corinth Secondary School, and I can tell you that my grades were comparable to students at the SJC. So it's really not the school, but how you apply yourself.
True.
But I think it comes down to mentality, though. I think over the years it has not changed, especially in the minds of parents and all the school officials and ministry officials and whatnot, in terms of the hierarchy. And because of that, the pressure on students, first and foremost in terms of what school to go to, is already one hindrance. Then when you enter that, you have that second pressure. So the teachings and the grades may be comparable at the end of the day, but first and foremost, when you enter that secondary school, or you're about to, or you're sitting the common entrance to determine, that hierarchy is there as a pressure point.
That's true. But with that said, at the end of the day, the statistics speak volumes. We still have, like Keisha was saying, we still have the schools like SJC, SMC and all and the rest with CXC results, their scores are way up there, and then the other schools that are really looked down on, they basically live up to these expectations and their scores are all the way at the
Some
bottom.
are struggling,
so why do you think this is? If it's as you say, where the teachers, like the good teachers, are spread across the board, why is it that the overall performances are so different?
Okay, well, you see, I would think it would be the self-fulfilling prophecy. If you tell a child you can't, most likely they're not going to. So motivation has a lot to play with it. When you went to convent, everybody said you could. But I can guarantee you, if you had gone to a lower school, you would probably not have performed as well as you did.
Now, mind you said lower school, huh?
My voice slightly go down.
Yes!
Once you
international.
know, once you know. No, but I do agree agree that motivation is a factor, and you see it on results day for common entrance. Some parents cannot even hide their dissatisfaction on their faces when the children don't go to their top 3 choices, and to me that's very demotivating, because there are some children who go to other schools. I had a friend who was just very frightened during exams. He suffered from anxiety, and so he couldn't perform well. He went to one of, he did not get his top 5 choices. So he just got placed into a secondary school. And he did so well for CXCs because his parents gave him that same boost and the same motivation, because it did not matter what school you went to. Now I know Keisha, you did speak to some students regarding their experience at secondary school or their first day, as well as universal education. So what happened, or what did you learn?
So before we do that, let's check out what they had to say. It was very interesting. We tried to speak to different students across the board, of course, getting to know, are they aware of what is universal education? We the adults, we're talking about it, but they're the ones coming up. They're the ones to carry on that battle and carry on, you know, that work towards true universal education. So let's check that out.
aspect, just that everybody can get a fair chance of going to school, have an education, then we could better go to tonight.
Universal education is the access of ability for the children to have an equal amount of education. Thank you.
All right, so very interesting responses there. I particularly like the guy who was the only guy who spoke actually better than the ladies. He was running away from us and then he starts talking about public speaking and everything. I was like, hey. And he was able to tell us what universal education. I think that was actually the best answer. So talk to us about the importance of the youth now understanding what is universal education and the importance of that passing on to the next generation.
Okay. Well, for the youth, I don't think they really need to understand it per se, because they're in the system and they're just getting an education. Do you agree?
Yes.
That it perhaps is just the idea of being educated. You know, you can sometimes, if you're in politics, you can give things all different names, but is the name really important? Or is it the concept of, you know, actually getting an education and how you get it?
And
And
the content. Yeah.
But
Well, go ahead.
I really think we need to go to that discussion about the quality of the content and,
Well, that's
what the content is.
That's
really.
what I was going to, because my thing with universal education is always that I wish there could be a complete overhaul of all the schools. Let's take away all the names, you know, and we could just say, hey, you're going to secondary school 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Stop the
8,
branding.
and so you don't feel like you are going
branded.
to
Yeah.
a particular school, because it should be, if it's universal education, that everybody gets the same quality and the
That's
same
true.
standard of education. Now, I personally don't think we're ready for universal education, because I don't think we spend enough time with those who need it the most. So our classes are so big that you don't actually have the opportunity to single out, you know, certain students who need the extra help and to focus, because hey, we're on a syllabus and it's time, and hey,
we
by
don't have
first
the resources at all.
you understand? So it's like, hey, it's first term, we have to get through this by first term. If you don't know, go and get extra lessons. Sometimes the parents can't afford it. So I think quality and the standard of the education is just as important as anything else.
Right.
What do you think needs to be put in place for us to begin universal education
Well,
in Saint
I
Lucia?
think the ministry is starting something that's commendable, turning the secondary schools into more specific schools, like the Grizzly Secondary School we made into a sports school. So we can really cater to the children who are gifted in sports. And which of the secondary schools down south will be turned into an art school?
I think it's Alger. We were talking of Alger. I believe it's Alger.
Okay, so I think that is key. And maybe, as you said, removing the stigma that's attached to
But I can tell you, going on what Franny said, it is a necessity, a definite necessity, but it is it's a pipe dream, I can tell you that, because I went to school in the UK, secondary school from Form 3, and two different worlds. But all I can say, you know that thing where, like in Saint Lucia, you're an SJC girl, you're an Entrepot
So
girl,
there's the hierarchy.
and you're basically two different worlds alone. In the UK, that does not exist. You go to school, and in the schools, they basically see who you are as the individual, and they apply, you basically take the classes that are suited to you, your capabilities. Like, for example, even in subjects like maths, science, and English, there is higher maths, lower maths, intermediate. I was lower maths. but yeah, Pythagoras is not doing anything for me right now. But from the way I studied up there, compared to I mean I had a taste of both worlds, and yeah, they're two completely different worlds, and it'll take a lot. We need it. It would be the best thing for our students down here. The opportunities would be endless, but then it's a pipe dream. I don't see it happening anytime soon.
What do we need to make that happen?
Wow, I think we probably need to start protesting. Get our children to protest. Get
I
our
don't know
parents
that
to
we have
protest.
that kind of culture. It may work, but I don't think we have that kind of culture.
I think
Well,
Holland
let's
has
see.
started
Here's
it.
one.
Has
No, we like to just talk. It is. Let's be honest.
That's my
So
problem.
hold
We are
on. So
starting
if
to
we're,
protest.
if we're saying protesting, then we need to know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So to the kids who are watching, because you know we have all age ranges checking out the soup, and thank you for that. Tell us some of the benefits of universal education. What are we putting our hands up to this for?
So if we're looking at getting quality universal education, because right now, you know, we have a lot more children being educated. So I think we're really striving for the quality, not just, okay, you have to do math, English, science, one
Foreign
language and everything else. Okay, what if I don't want to do a foreign language? What if my brain isn't wired really
What if I
to
don't
learn
want to
I
do
was
math
told
or
no,
English at
girl.
all?
I tried.
What if I
Okay.
want to?
I want to be a musician.
Yeah. What if I
Right.
want to cook?
Yeah.
So that's one of the benefits, that you have choices. So you have a range of
Yes,
options.
definitely.
What else, ladies, would you say is one of the benefits of universal education?
I think one of the things that can work is to give our teachers the requisite skills to teach the subjects accordingly. And I say that based on an experience that I had. While I was at Andrew Secondary, I had, I think, 3 separate math teachers as we went through the 5 years. And for the life of me, I could not figure out angle at 90 square, and get what I'm saying, so that should tell you. I couldn't figure it out at all. And what x plus y minus c equals the z. I was lost, totally lost. So that should tell you what my CXC end result was. You don't want to know. It wasn't horrible, but it could have been better.
Cricket?
A few years in the past then, right?
But when I got to Saint Lucians, I met this male teacher who taught math. I can't remember what they called that particular one. And from day 1 through to the end of the the whole semester, however long it was, I looked at him and I actually had to tell him, I can't believe this. Where were you in my secondary school days? Because by the time he was finished with the subject, it made it seem like just taking a glass of water and drink. It was that simple. So that thing that felt like it was so alien became like a twin to me. I really got it. So I think, and his teaching was not so far-fetched, you know. It's the way he was able to break it down and relate it to actual fact. You were able to then see how you go about calculating from step 1 to get your final answer. It was that easy. And I continuously got high scores on my math. And to this day, I still can't believe how good I was. But it came down to his skill. So I think one of the things that is very important for universal education is that the teachers who are teaching the subject, they know what they're teaching. Not in terms of the head knowledge, but how you bring it out to your student. And a lot of teachers, well, some teachers, I don't want to make a blanket statement, they have the knowledge, but they do not know how to pass it on. And they need that skill.
I had that same problem, that same experience in secondary school with my math teachers. From Form 1 to Form 4, it looked like a labyrinth I had to navigate until I got a Guyanese teacher in Form 5. And it was like the blanket just came off my eyes. So that's very important.
Well, if you had Mr. Savvy at SJC.
That's right, girl.
Top it
Then you wouldn't have that problem. Okay? One of the cons that somebody had mentioned to me once about universal education is that children may not work as hard when it comes to exams like common entrance, knowing that you automatically get entry into a school. So the point that the person was making, and I understood in the end, is that if you're told, hey, you must go to these top 5 schools, then you make sure, boy, you sit in that exam and it's like, oh, okay, I really have to make sure I study extra hard. If they tell you, hey, okay, so you're doing this exam just to see what level you at, but you're going to go to a school anyway, some children may not be as motivated. Yeah. Do you think that's one of the cons as well? Do you all agree?
I want to debunk that. I understand where they're coming from. You know, it's a motive. Sometimes, I just learned the other day, sometimes a little pressure is good. It's good. Not too much pressure, but applying a little pressure can go a long way, adults, children. But if we take, like, for example, in your situation where the teachers now continue to work and find where it is that where their strengths are as they continue on to the secondary school, because now you're told that if you're not good at math, if you're not good at English, you're dumb. And that's if you're not good at these subjects, if you're not inclined to do science or English literature, you're not good enough. You understand? So
your life is not going to be good enough. Because the kind of work you can get would not be the same as somebody.
And I think it will help us to keep up with the world in terms of more diversification, in terms of earning a living. You know, I can be a makeup artist and make money. I can be an athlete and make money. I'd like to see some more Darren Sammy people and more Laverne Spencers. You know, we're talking about these two, but who else is there?
Yeah, where's some real time in
Did you hear that? Yeah. Enchipo, you hear that?
Some more points.
And that's going to bring down the poverty rate and the crime rate there. Which is a big problem in Saint Lucia right now.
Exactly.
So if we diversify and we have other people, you know, getting into different areas, we have more entrepreneurs and, you know, artists and musicians. Come on. Nobody's going to be shooting up anybody if they have money in their pocket.
And they don't feel frustrated that they were told that they were not good enough and so on. These things, and it's socially start, you know, all these issues, and I'm sure you're aware of these things, all these issues, they start from small, making children feel they were not good enough and so on, and then they fall into getting wayward and joining a life of crime, and because joining the gangs, that's where they feel you know, they belong.
You're accepted,
They're accepted.
You know, and you can excel there.
But I want to go back to something that you said. I'm happy you did. When we went into the street vibe and I came back and I told you that the youth need to know, you started talking about protesting and you said the children need to protest. But I'm saying that's again where the yes, they're getting an education now. Some of them may not, they're sitting in a class and they don't know the struggle it took to get there. I still remember not having secondary schools everywhere. I still remember children getting their results and they were unassigned. They couldn't go to secondary school. But the children now don't understand that. So I think they need to continue the fight, as you said, to protest. They need to be educated as to where universal education needs to go, because we're discussing that and realize we're not there yet. The children still feel, again, that if they're not good at math, if they're not good at English, they're not good enough. The education is still a one-size-fits-all, and it's not working
I mean,
for
no,
us.
that doesn't work. Your clothes is not a one-size.
Experience,
why should your education be that way?
Exactly.
That makes no sense.
Bernice, what will happen once universal education is introduced effectively in Saint Lucia? What's the change going to be like?
That I have no idea. We might have to call Gil Rigobert for that.
I'm very curious to know what it's going to be like.
Do you have her on speed dial?
I don't. I have a card. We'll give her a call after.
We need to give her a buzz then.
Crucified for even suggesting that, but one of the things I think need to be done, they need to do away with common entrance in the first place, because I think that's one of that's the start of that stigmatization. If you don't pass common entrance, you're not going to go to one of the good schools. I think step by step, exactly, step by step. Start with the first one, common entrance. My mom, I'll tell you this, my mom had to be talked out of sending me back to Ave Maria when I passed for Enchipo. She was livid. She made up her mind as soon as I brought the results to her, you're going back.
Where did she want you to go?
Not where did she want me to go? Excuse me? She wanted me to go to Hess. But basically, the way I performed throughout my years at Ave Maria, that's where I was destined to go. But then, on the day of my common entrance exams, anxiety, performance anxiety kicked in, and I ended up going to Engipo. And she was not having it. They had to talk her out of it. Lorna, she will be fine. And you know, but yeah. So that's the first thing.
And you're fine.
I'm fine. Look
You're
at me.
perfect.
Y'all from that first day, okay? Y'all about that. Relax
Don't even
now.
start with me.
But I do think, yeah, I'm in agreement of universal education. I think all of us here are.
It can work. It can work.
Those of us who are parents, almost everybody.
No.
No.
Not yet.
Two,
No,
two
not yet.
mummies
Parents
there.
and mummies.
Would you definitely be for universal education?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I said to my daughter, I said, in fact, she just had common entrance. And she put so much pressure on herself. And I'm like, what are you doing?
What school is she going to?
Well, she's going to SJC.
Excuse me.
Points. But I'm just saying. No, but I said to her, I'm not pressuring you.
Yeah.
Wherever you go, I will support you. Whatever you want to do. You want to be an athlete, you want to be a musician. I mean, coming from me, I've gone the arts, my brothers have been in sports. Whatever you want to do is, and we need more parents like that. And I think also the change towards that is not just the mindset of our parents, because what we talk to our children is about is what they're going to do and what they're going to pass on.
Yes.
I think history has shown, Keisha, that Saint Lucians in general are creatures of habits.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm talking in everything. The same way you will get people who will not leave their Young and Restless alone. From the time they were children, they watch Young and Restless, they'll not watch Bold. You get people, their whole family, their whole life, they voted Labour, they will not vote UWP, even though they disagree.
Your whole life you were Catholic.
Your whole life you
so if your husband happens to be Seventh Day, well, too bad
sorry for
you,
your
brother.
divorce.
So if your whole life your parents and your sisters and brothers have gone to a boring school, you just go and you follow suit.
What's a boring school? Continue that. Yes, so if you need to get some more water, some more coffee, a little wine, hey, we're enjoying the conversation. You do that. This is the soup.
Home was meant to be a safe and secure place for children. But for those who witness abuse and violence in the home daily, this is just not the case. Don't let your children become victims of abuse. There are support services available to you and your family.
For more information, call 202, the Women's Support Center.
Abuse can have a tragic end. Zero tolerance is what you need, my friend.
If you're just joining us, you have missed a wonderful first episode of season 3 of The Soup. Of course, today we discussed universal education, and we did have a very special guest that we have to thank for being with us today, Bernice Lewis. And she had a very fun discussion here with us, and as well an inspiring conversation about universal education. Ladies, we took a lot from this discussion here today.
We did, so now I know what to do as a parent with my child.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
What did you say with your child?
Yeah, now I know what to do as a parent when I have that child, when I become a parent. Excuse me?
Okay.
She's not saying hello. Hello, wishful thinking. Okay. All right, she's getting there.
I'll just pull the face.
So before we say anything else, who won?
Definitely SJC.
No.
SJC.
Like I said, you don't have a Laverne.
Okay, I think we need a mutual party.
Okay, the viewers.
Yeah,
Anybody
the viewers
at
will
home,
decide.
rep your school, whatever school you went to, let us know. SJC, but whatever school you went to, let us know. I think generally we all had a positive experience.
I think so, yes.
Yes.
But I think with us going into secondary school, I think universal education would have been fantastic.
I would have loved it. And at least if we as parents, or even you as an aunt or also or a guardian, whatever you didn't get, you're hopeful that your children or your children's children will get better. All right? So I'm hopeful that universal education will get there. The mindset of our people will change.
But we do know that parents also play a huge part. It is your child. It is their future. You have a say in what happens. So nothing is wrong that not just the students protesting, and there's always a fair, logical, and emphatic way of protesting to get what you need without being taken for a joke or it being seen as something that is frivolous. So if parents can get together too, approach the ministry, approach the minister, have your say. But don't say today and you forget about it tomorrow, because I think that's one of our issues. We don't have staying power. So if we can keep at it, maybe just maybe we won't be, like you said, you know, it's just something in the wind.
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, seeing that I've been through it, I've experienced it. Oh God, I wish, that's something I wish for my own
Love
children.
to see it work,
I would love to see them go through that. Like even my son loves music. My daughter, she's into arts and creating stuff and sciences, and not necessarily the strongest in English. So I would like to know that she can progress in a school system where she's not looked down upon because she's not the best in English, but then she can know that she can excel and become something great at science and the stuff that she loves.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think it's really needed, and I'm hoping that is something that could be considered.
But not just for our kids or persons who are here who are in the school system presently. I can think of quite a few classmates of mine from primary school who would have benefited from universal education because they dropped out early enough because they couldn't take the pressure of having to keep up, you know, with the best in the class. It's like you always, oh, and I hated that, top, the highest in the class, and it's like even if you get a point less, people watching you like, hey, but somebody got this, you know. And so I could think of some people who could have really benefited from having universal education and a fair shot at whatever they're gifted in.
And I continue to say education of our very own children, because I was caught up in that. I was one of those in the top 5, and that's what I was. I have to be in the top and the top and the top and the top.
Sure.
And then it's as I grew and going through the secondary school system and going to work and interacting and knowing and getting out of the shell, then I understood. But then it would be good for children to know these things from even before that and not get caught up. Competition is healthy, yes, but not in this, you know, I have to be good at math. We all have to be good at math. Or
Well, who's telling them that? I found that we didn't have anybody giving us a realistic idea of things while we were in school, you know? Yes, you heard from your teachers. The teachers said what they had to, that yes, you have to do very well if you want to be able to get a job. At the job fairs, you'll hear, yes, you must have 5 CXCs and so, you know? But what about the realistic, you know, perspective? People who did the arts, who didn't even go to school. My grandmother didn't have a secondary school education. I would not know that in speaking to her. She is intelligent. She learned in different ways. There are different ways to learn, you know. Not everybody had the same opportunities. So yes, it's true that some children don't know, but who's telling them? Exactly. And I do think that we are also responsible as adults to pass on that message that, hey, I'm working in a different field and I needed nothing, you know. No, I'm not saying do nothing in school, but I'm saying you don't have to beat yourself up, you know, in the subjects that are mandatory to be able to chase your dreams.
And there are examples out there to show that it's not all about the academics.
Yes.
And what happens is, and there's this phrase that do what you like, and you never work a day in your life.
Right. Yes.
So if you're doing the subjects that you like, it doesn't feel like it's work. You're just doing what you like. You're doing now PE is on CXC. That wasn't there in my time. For people that are into sports and so on, that's something that they can do and go into PE. But don't teach other students, not because they're doing PE means that, you know, they lack a tasty call or that's the easy way out.
You're
less, you know, of a person. It's a subject, that's their strength. Push them in that area and teach people to open their minds. Let's have more Nina Comptons. Let's have more Loveland Spencers. You know, these people did it apart from just being a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant.
Nina went to SJC?
Huh?
Nina went to SJC, right?
I think she went to Comfrey.
Did you read?
You see,
we didn't get it. Now, ladies, of course, this is a beautiful discussion, and I do hope that you, our viewers, you continue the discussion on our social media pages. On Facebook, we are _soup, and on Instagram, _soup SLU. Now, our next discussion, okay, I'm going to have to take that uniform off because it's not suitable. All right, we need no school children here for this one. Cheating.
Oi!
Wow!
I have a lot to say.
You'll have a lot to say about that one. If you were with us,
I just might disappear for that one.
if you were with us, back in season 2, was it season 2 or season 1? In season 1, we did, I wasn't present, but there was a discussion on cheating. Trust me, I was home biting my nails like somebody said. So there was a discussion about cheating, and so our next episode, you guys need to make sure you stay tuned for that one, is going to be all about cheating. Ladies, show of hands, anybody has your experience?
None of your
Either
business.
way.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. We're getting ready for that. Also coming up this season, we are speaking Soleil.
Yes.
You guys went to some of the festivals?
Yes, we did.
Yes. So I think, majority of us were at the festivals, and so we're going to be doing an overview on Soleil, jazz.
And still more to come.
Yes.
There's still more to come.
Right?
Yes.
There's still more. Soleil is not done as yet.
Not
So
yet.
we're talking about what has happened thus far. Jazz. Of course, we had soul, reggae.
Arts and soul,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Reggae and soul.
Reggae and
Am I
soul.
correct?
That's right.
I
Funny
would
to
hope
me you
so.
were a host at
I
one of
hope
those
so.
things.
I was jazz. Hello, ma'am. But we did, so we went to those festivals. Carnival.
Carnival. Oh, yeah.
Carnival babies here. Rochelle said no. Okay, well, we'll be discussing that. We'll be discussing Carnival as well. Of course, we have some very special guests joining us this season on the Soup. So all you guys need to do is make sure that you stay tuned. Right, ladies?
Definitely.
Right. Yes.
You guys had fun?
Yeah,
I did. Definitely.
We can look at ESS.
Who's winning, okay? But it's been a fantastic program.
Definitely.
Again, welcome, ladies, to the Soup. And of course, we're hoping that we entertain you guys at home watching us. Thank you so much for keeping it tuned to our first episode of season 3 of the Soup.